Alrighty, y'all. G'day, how you gone? We're taking a look at some maps and kind of geography topics about Australia. It's been a while since we did this, and these are some of my favorite videos, so let's jump straight into this. Why is Western Australia relatively underpopulated? Would it be worth settling its coast more? Well, before we even get to the answers, I would assume just because it's, well, it would take a lot of effort to get it populated, right? It is far away from everything. Not to mention, it looks pretty damn wicked. Pretty hot, pretty dry. Let's see what the answers say. There's no water and it's bloody hot. I mean, it sounds kind of simple. Sounds like a short answer, but honestly, it's the truth, right? Those are kind of some big obstacles to take care of. Here we have a map of mobile phone coverage. This is actually pretty interesting. This is usually interesting for most countries, although I haven't even seen these maps for a lot of countries. I think I've only seen this for like the US. And there's surprisingly some kind of big dull spots where there's not great coverage. Now, of course, I picture this being way more common. We're talking tons and tons, maybe even a whole day of like no cell coverage in Australia. And this map kind of proves that, right? We still have 4G as the predominant, well, this is from a year ago, I suppose, but this is the predominant coverage is 4G. And you only get that in where you would expect, right, near the coast and the major cities, you know, like Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth over here. I mean, if you're inland, pretty much anywhere, you're screwed. That's what it seems like to me. Kind of odd that Tasmania has it, you know, pretty heavy in certain spots, but there's almost a none in this left or I guess western side of Tasmania. I'm in the middle of the Outback with no water. Let me just call for help. Someone does make a potentially life-saving point, though, that you need to use the Iridium satellite network in case anyone's heading out that way. Info on buying an Aussie satellite phone, and there it is from Telstra. Yeah, that is very, very good point. They actually advise that for here, too, going through the desert or going through really mountainous places in the western U.S. or maybe all the way up to Alaska or something, right? Yeah. You're going to want a satellite phone because, God forbid, something happens and you're in a desolate place, like some of the places I've seen. Very scary thought, not having, you know, any phone signal at all. And I can imagine that be probably twice as scary out in the Outback. Now, this is kind of a good question because, you know, like the Earth is so big. I feel like there's so many like millions of ways to like, I don't know. This sounds kind of weird, but like I always think sometimes in my head, when I wake up and I go through a whole day, it's kind of mind-blowing to think that there's just literally millions or actually billions of different like lives you could live in one day, right? Like my daily life is completely different than so many others. And some people's daily lives might be very fascinating, right? So I always think of that in relation to like, say, Australia, right? Like if you're up here in northern Western Australia, what is like that is such a different life, right? Not only are you in Australia, so that's totally different compared to me, but you're also in like a very isolated and different part of Australia. You're not in Sydney or Melbourne like, you know, everyone else, right? So this post is basically asking that, like, how do people live there? Is it just mining or are there other things? You know, what is life like near the Kimberley region there? Because as we know, it's beautiful, but for people that actually live there, you know, how do they live there, right? Lots of massive cattle stations. Some have camping or other accommodation for tourists. Some other agriculture around Kununurra due to irrigation. Lots of small Aboriginal communities. A little bit of mining, but most mining is done a bit south in the Pilbara region. It's spectacular. Lots of tourism outside of wet season. Many beautiful gorges with waterfalls and swimming holes. Great fishing. Coastline is incredible. Like Norway or New Zealand fjords, but orange outback rock. Oh, yeah, I've no doubt. I've seen video of that region. It is literally one of the most gorgeous places on Earth. Unfortunately, coast is quite difficult to access in most places unless traveling by boat. It's great. My husband is from Pilbara. His childhood memories include a lot of red dust. And another thing for Kimberley, cyclone parties. What? They do these in the Southeast U.S. See, I don't live in the Southeast U.S. I didn't even know we did that here. I guess they would be called, like, what, hurricane parties here? This is from 2018. Broome police are advising residents not to hold cyclone parties at Western Australia's north brace for a second tropical cyclone in a fortnight. Tropical low brewing off Kimberley coast is likely to develop into a cyclone to be named Joyce. Basically saying like don't get wasted in case you need to move stuff, important things out of your house, or get your wits about you to, get somewhere safe. Cyclone parties where people drink stockpiled alcohol while bunkered indoors have been popular but controversial among residents during severe weather events in WA's north. That's hilarious, right? Like, oh, we're going to be, kind of locked down here during the storm. Let's get hammered. Let's go all out. And I do agree with this statement, right? Some of the most stunningly beautiful landscapes in the entire world. I really do think that. And I haven't even seen it in person. I'm sure it would take my breath away in person. But I can just see through video and pictures, like that area has got to be tops when you talk about like some of the most mind-blowing places on Earth. The Outback, especially, let's get real, like Northwest Australia, right, is just insane. Now, this is hilarious. I had to throw this on there. This is under terrible maps, but come on, let's be funny for a second here. This is the United States if it was divided up like Australia's political subdivisions. So, yeah, I just thought this was kind of funny. I actually think they got the dimensions a little wrong here, but honestly, whatever, right? It's just kind of a meme anyway. I thought this was funny, like the play on words, right? Kingsland, New South Cornwall, Elizabeth down here, Western America. Like, yeah, this is funny. Don't forget Puerto Mania. This image is something I actually haven't seen when we're talking about like a flying perspective. I think this is one of the most haunting images under this context, right? Flying over the desert in Western Australia. Can you imagine getting lost here? So if we actually pull this up, this is like both beautiful and terrifying, right? It's beautiful because I love deserts, right? This red hue of this Outback desert is just, it's gorgeous, right? But at the same time, you can see how absolutely massive and devoid of life it is, right? I mean, this is something like out of a game or a movie or a dream or a nightmare, right? It doesn't look real because, I guess from my perspective, a lot of people's perspective, we live in, pretty populated areas and not surrounded necessarily by landscapes like this. So for me, it's just absolutely wild. I guess I'm a little different. I have lived in a desert before, and it was beautiful and very rugged too. Once you left the city, you were on your own, right? But it truly, it was nowhere near as empty as this. This is truly terrifying. If you were lost out here, I don't know how you would even get here to begin with, but yeah, it's not looking good, right? It's going to be very scary because it just truly looks like it goes on forever. Got to be one of the most unique places on Earth, right? I mean, yeah, there's certain places on every continent that are pretty empty, but this is truly just visceral looking. It's crazy. Now, another crazy picture I stumbled upon was this. This is the Simpson Desert, of course, in Central Australia, hosting the most remote music festival in the world. I didn't know that was a thing, right? I've heard of, remote music festivals. Basically, the only knowledge I have of those would be here in the U.S., and there's some out in the desert and stuff, but I've never, ever seen anything like this. I mean, look at the landscape again, right? The Simpson Desert, very scenic, but very empty, very kind of terrifying looking, right? It seems to go on forever. These people, or I think these are probably like campers and cars and vehicles, and then there's people probably somewhere there. Yeah, it looks like little bugs. It doesn't even make sense, right? That's as far as I can zoom in. This is freaking crazy. Whoa. Yeah, if anyone knows about this or has been to this, let me know. How freaky is it? It might be awesome, but I feel like it's freaky. This is out past Birdsville in the Shire, country or county equivalent, 30 times less densely populated than Alaska's emptiest borough. Wow. Apparently it's called the Big Red Bash. So I guess we got to take a look. It's an annual music festival held in the Simpson Desert, 35 kilometers west of Birdsville in Queensland. Oh, so it's in, I would not have guessed Queensland. I would have guessed like South Australia or, Northern Territory, maybe even Western Australia, but it's actually in Queensland, which sometimes I forget has huge amounts of inland area and, of course, has desert as well. I always associate like the tropical coast of Queensland, right? But that's not the whole state. The first festival occurred in 2013. In 2023, the event drew more than 11,000 visitors. I suppose that's a lot. It doesn't sound like a lot, but I suppose that's a lot when you consider how remote it is, right? The Big Red Bash was founded by Greg Donovan, who continues to organize the event today. It is marketed as the world's most remote music festival. I don't think anyone's going to challenge them on that. I'd say that's probably pretty accurate. It's the festival site's a 1.3 million hectare organic cattle station. The concert area measures 63,000 square meters. Takes place over 3 days in July. So it was probably just about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I suppose, which would have been winter. But I suppose winter really isn't a thing there, right? If that's in inland Queensland, that's still, in the northern half of Australia, and it's in the desert. It's probably more just probably great weather. Honestly, it's probably not super hot like it would be in summer. Camel rides and sand dune boogie boarding are popular. The funniest comments I read was, looks like another Burning Man festival. Which is, of course, if you don't already know, that's like a, I guess our version of this, very like out there kind of exclusive festival out in the desert in Nevada. And I love it. Someone said, AKA Burning Bloke. Now that is accurate. That's hilarious. Anyone know why this city was censored on the flight map to Australia? Censored on the flight map. I originally thought that they were talking about like Flight Simulator, like a game, but now I realize they're talking about real flight map. That is pretty weird. Anyone know? It might be just an error, right? Or it could be a juicy conspiracy. We'll just have to see what you guys come up with. They don't really know in the comments here. People think it's Mildura, but they have no idea why it would be censored or missing. But hey, we're going to cut it there. There's actually a lot more I want to see, so we're going to do one of these soon. These are actually, really fun, so I hope you enjoyed that. I appreciate you watching. Can't wait to see you in the comments down below. My name is Ian. You're watching IWrocker. Until next time, y'all. Catch you later.